Fiji, officially the Republic of Fiji, is an island country in Melanesia, part of Oceania in the South Pacific Ocean. It lies about 1,100 nautical miles northeast of New Zealand. Fiji consists of an archipelago of more than 330 islands, of which about 110 are permanently inhabited, and more than 500 islets, amounting to a total land area of about 18,300 square kilometers. The most outlying island group is Ono I Lao. About 87% of the total population of 883,483 live on the two major islands, Viti Levu and Vanua Levu. About three-quarters of Fijians live on Viti Levu's coasts, either in the capital city of Suva, or in smaller urban centers such as Nadi, where tourism is the major local industry, or in Lautika, where the sugarcane industry is dominant. The interior of Viti Levu is sparsely inhabited because of its terrain. The majority of Fiji's islands were formed by volcanic activity starting around 150 million years ago. Some geothermal activity still occurs today on the islands of Vanua Levu and Taweni. The geothermal systems on Viti Levu are non-volcanic in origin and have low-temperature surface discharges. Humans have lived in Fiji since the 2nd millennium BC. First Austronesians and later Melanesians, with some Polynesian influences. Europeans first visited Fiji in the 17th century. In 1874, after a brief period in which Fiji was an independent kingdom, the British established the colony of Fiji. Fiji operated as a crown colony until 1970, when it gained independence and became known as the Dominion of Fiji. In 1987, following a series of coups d'état, the military government that had taken power declared it to be a republic. In a 2006 coup, Commodore Frank Bainimarama seized power. In 2009, the Fijian High Court ruled that the military leadership was unlawful. At that point, President Ratu Josefa Iloilo, whom the military had retained as the nominal head of state, formally abrogated the 1997 constitution and reappointed Bainimarama as interim prime minister. Later in 2009, Ratu Epeli Nelatikau succeeded Iloilo as president. On the 17th of September 2014, after years of delays, a democratic election took place. Bainimarama's Fiji First Party won 59.2% of the vote, and international observers deemed the election credible. Fiji has one of the most developed economies in the Pacific through its abundant forest, mineral, and fish resources. The currency is the Fijian dollar, with the main sources of foreign exchange being the tourist industry, remittances from Fijians working abroad, bottled water exports, and sugar cane. The Ministry of Local Government and Urban Development supervises Fiji's local government, which takes the form of city and town councils. The name of Fiji's main island, Viti Levu, served as the origin of the name, Fiji, though the common English pronunciation is based on that of Fiji's island neighbors in Tonga. An official account of the emergence of the name states, Fijians first impressed themselves on European consciousness through the writings of the members of the expeditions of Cook who met them in Tonga. They were described as formidable warriors and ferocious cannibals, builders of the finest vessels in the Pacific, but not great sailors. They inspired awe amongst the Tongans, and all their manufactures, especially bark cloth and clubs, were highly valued and much in demand. They called their home Viti, but the Tongans called it Fisi, and it was by this foreign pronunciation, Fiji, first promulgated by Captain James Cook, that these islands are now known. Fiji, the anglicized spelling of the Tongan pronunciation, occurred in accounts and other writings by missionaries and other travelers visiting Fiji until the late 19th century. Pottery art from Fijian towns shows that Fiji was settled by Austronesian peoples by at least 3,500 to 1000 BC, with Melanesians following around 1,000 years later. Although there are still many open questions about the specific dates and patterns of human migration into Fiji and many other Pacific islands, it is believed that either the Lapita people or the ancestors of the Polynesians settled the islands first, but not much is known of what became of them after the Melanesians arrived. The old culture may have had some influence on the new one. And archaeological evidence shows that some of the migrants moved on to Samoa, Tonga and even Hawaii. Archaeological evidence also shows signs of human settlement on Motuiki Island beginning at least by 600 BC and possibly as far back as 900 BC. Although some aspects of Fijian culture are similar to the Melanesian culture of the Western Pacific, Fijian culture has a stronger connection to the older Polynesian cultures. The evidence is clear that there was trade between Fiji and neighboring archipelagos long before Europeans made contact with Fiji. For example, the remains of ancient canoes made from native Fijian trees have been found in Tonga. The language of Fiji's Lau Islands contains Tongan word